that out whenever. So,
and it's on here.
Sweet.
It's because we have such good conversation without hitting record.
I know.
We just have to hit record in the beginning.
We got to get it going.
Yeah. I'm excited for this because this is like passion.
Yeah.
This has been good stuff.
Yeah.
It's been a good year.
So talking about crypto, right? That's what we're going to dive into today is cryptocurrencies and that kind of, I guess we ought to start with like clear back at Fed and stuff. But for me, crypto's actually pretty new. I have, looked into it before. Obviously, everybody's heard it on the news, especially during 2017. I remember hearing it, like listening to the radio, and it's like, Bitcoin went up another whatever, and just the awe that it had. And I'm like, well, at that point, it was too late to get in and everything else, I thought.
Yeah.
And also just didn't have the time to dive in and really look at it, or, the care to, I guess, maybe.
Yeah. And it's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird to think there's the digital currency. What's it backed by? What's it, almost some of the instant questions. People are like, what's it backed by? Well, I used to try to explain it. Now I'm like, what's the dollar backed by?
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think too that we're in such a different world than we have been, you know what I mean, up until now. So
yeah,
value's kind of relative to.
For sure. I mean, in my mind, cryptocurrency has way more actual hard value than the dollar does. I would put money into cryptocurrency well before I keep it in the bank account, but that's just because we've studied it over. We bought our first into Bitcoin for the first time when it was at $2,400 in 2017. I bought $8 worth. I wrote it up to $10 and I sold it.
Nice.
I was like, sweet.
20% gain.
Yeah, exactly. Then watched it go from 2,400 up to 20,000 before it had its pullback. But I guess just getting into this and like explaining to people kind of the works. Like I think in this chat, we just want to talk about maybe some history. So the Fed, I think it's important. Like people need to know why cryptocurrency is the future. And, gold and silver has its place. Cryptocurrency has its place right now in the digital world. But what has brought us to this? And then maybe where people want to put their fiat currency. Where do they want to put it? Is it Bitcoin? Is it Ethereum? Is it Cardano? Is it Luna? Is it some crazy one, StormX? I mean, is it, there's all these different ones. And then wallets, exchanges, just kind of just get into it.
Yeah, let's do it. That sounds good to me.
So the Fed.
The Fed. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, wait, there's something here. Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Oh, but then, yeah, see, that's what the Fed does right there.
Yeah. Yep. Going burr. Is that what they say? Going burr, like the money machine. Brrr,
yeah.
Like.
And they're good at it. See, and nowadays, they don't even have to print it. They can just put zeros in the computer. But taking it far, far back, we didn't want central banks. We didn't want government-controlled money because it doesn't make sense to have a currency that's not backed by anything, that's only controlled by a government. They can print. And what's it backed by? Well, we're going to have rampant inflation. And if you look at 1900 compared to today, obviously the dollar has less purchasing power.
Well, and I mean, even going along with government money, I think in the beginning, the government money was well-intentioned. I mean, even in the Constitution, it says that it has to be backed, right? And so when we first had, and I guess we could say too, there's been a bunch of different government currency. I mean, we talk about the dollar, but there's actually others, the continental and different things that have gone extinct that we don't even talk about. So within the United States, we think, oh, we have the dollar. Well, there's been 3 or 4 other currencies up until that point, not including individual like state currencies and that kind of thing. So when
Confederate currency.
Yeah. So when you really, which it's kind of funny because some of that, if it's collectible now, is like, would be a good investment. But even looking at like Zimbabwe, I saw a thing the other day where, and I don't remember the year that Zimbabwe went from having sound money to just blowing it off the chart, having hyperinflation. But over the course of that year, a dollar was worth something. Like you could actually, it was worth quite a bit. A Zimbabwe dollar was worth quite a bit. By the end of the year, you couldn't buy anything with like $1 billion. So it's interesting to see once that decoupling happened. And I don't know, we always use Zimbabwe as the role model, I guess.
Well, it's one of the most recent.
We could talk about Venezuela too. But, I think governments stay in check to a point if it's backed by gold and silver or backed by something that isn't infinite, I guess. Once that decoupling happens, it seems like it just goes crazy, which is what we're witnessing now. I mean, it's been decoupled for, since the 70s, basically?
71, when Nixon took us off the gold standard.
Right. So, but now, I mean, you can kind of you can see how governments and Federal Reserve and leaders of governments can just say, well, we can print more. It just gets out of hand. And it's easy to justify. It's like, I guess at our house, if you're using a credit card, it's easy to justify like, hey, well, we can go out on a date tonight. It's not a big deal. If you do that over and over and over and over and over again, then it makes it easier to justify and it gets away from you.
So you mentioned sound money. So when you say sound money, you're talking backed money. It's, sound, hard, are those synonymous?
I think, and I don't know. I mean, we talked about this last time. I think the best way to learn about this stuff in an easy way is Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money. I mean, he goes into what money is. He looks at past money, looks at past fiat currencies. Like the guy's literally spent his life studying it. Yeah. And then he goes into the Federal Reserve, the fractional reserve banking system, and kind of all how that works. But I think sound money would just be something that I guess is backed by something. It retains its value and its purchasing power over time. Yeah. So we can look at the dollar right now. Next year, a dollar is going to be worth less than it is now.
So sound is going to be restrained. So they're going to restrain the supply, correct? So if the dollar is the dollar, which it is, and it has rampant supply, they're just printing or putting the dollars in, then it has less purchasing power in the future. So as far as the soundness, or you hear hard and easy money, or hard and soft money. So easy money is just the dollar. It's just printed. It's the same with the peso in Mexico. And then I think it's important to know that historically, civilizations have fallen in regard to their money hardness. So you had Rome. Rome fell when they actually started to devalue their monetary system. They started to make their gold and silver smaller and smaller and smaller. Or they go away from it completely and they say, well, your copper coin is worth the same as your silver coin. And so then the government comes in and they say, hey, it's the same value. We're telling you that it's the same value, even though it's not the same value. Weimar, Germany, same thing. Over a 10-year period, they just started to decouple from the idea of having hard money. They started printing more and more. Within 10 years, you can buy, with a German mark, you can buy some bread. Now with 1 trillion German marks, you can't buy a loaf of bread.
Yeah, and you see the people with the wheelbarrows full of
Yeah.
money and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I heard in I think it was Weimar, Germany, like at the height of that, you could buy an entire city block with like a couple ounces of gold, because, which I still don't 100% understand that, because you would think that the value of one hard asset to another hard asset would still kind of, but
Yeah.
just the money system had collapsed to the point that there was so much value in hard, tangible
Yeah.
assets, I guess.
Well, I think that's why the preppers are like, hey, have junk silver. The 1960s, 1970s dimes and everything, they're 90% silver. They're not. But if everything collapses, you have something hard to hold on to. It's like, hey, this silver has value. This gold has value. Platinum has value. And today, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and they really derive their value from that limited supply. And I think that's, if we look in the past where we print and print and print and there's no supply cap, what is a dollar if there's a gajillion of them out there?
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Getting sent out in a stimulus payment tomorrow or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's tough to look at it because from the capitalist standpoint and the socialist standpoint, if you're just taking them both apart, it's easy to look at it and go, from my standpoint, I look at the socialist aspect and I go, you're taking my future, which means you're taking our employees' future. You're taking my kids' future. Because you're giving something away that doesn't even exist. But then they can switch it around and they can go, well, from your capitalist standpoint, you want people to be poor. It's
Yeah.
like, no, I actually think abundance exists to the point where we can all live a great life. So it's tough. There's
Well, and capitalism has been so distorted in our current environment. I feel like, with along the lines of the stimulus stuff and the bailouts and everything that the government's been doing, and this isn't even a recent thing. I mean, even back to the, 2008 thing and everything else, they were bailing out banks and institutions and everything else. Well, that's not capitalism.
Yeah.
If those banks were insolvent or those businesses were insolvent, then they should have gone away, and new people that are more efficient and smarter and know how to solve those problems better come up in the place of that, and it creates a new, better system.
Yeah.
Whereas now we have a whole generation and probably 2 generations that think of capitalism as kind of this relationship between government and big business, and the government takes tax money or prints it, and gives it to large crony capitalist institutions, whether that be through oil lobbies or, we saw the big things for Amazon and Walmart and, here recently, then, so everybody's looking at that and going, well, give me some of that.
Yeah.
Where's my money? Where's my bailout? Or we're sending it overseas, and so they're looking at that and saying, well, big business is bad, when it's not true capitalism.
Not at
I've
all.
heard it been called crony capitalism, because they're in cahoots. And
Yeah,
so
and I don't even like to put the two together. I don't like to say crony capitalism because it's not capitalism at that point. It is cronyism.
yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah.
When the government gets involved in who is going to succeed and who is going to fail, well, I think it's all going to fail.
Yeah.
Because you can't put those people in that situation. Now, as their constituents, we're allowing this to happen. We're voting them in or whatever. They get in, and then we're allowing them to make these decisions. But, I mean, why is it okay that, just throwing out administrations, why is it okay that an Obama administration takes over GM? Mm-hmm. I mean, for a time, essentially Obama was the CEO of General Motors because they bailed him out. Let him fail. Let someone like Tesla come in, let someone like Ford come in or whatever, and buy that out and run it more efficiently. It's not up to the government to decide who wins and fails in a free market society. In liberty and freedom, the government doesn't decide that. The free market decides that. But
Yeah.
we don't live there anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and it doesn't, I think, we've seen the majority of those bailouts and things go to the big corporations and banks and Wall Street and whatever, but nobody's immune from a government subsidy.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, whether you're getting a stimulus check, whether, now our healthcare pretty much is all subsidized to some point. Even I look at farmers, I come from a farming background, and so I'm not bashing on it, but there's always farm subsidies or subsidies for other kinds of businesses. So capitalism is kind of dead.
I agree.
We kind of, we keep talking about we don't want to be a socialist country. Sorry, we're there.
We are there.
Yeah.
When the government decides who shuts down because of the virus,
Yeah.
that we're there.
Yeah.
We're in a socialist system. We're not in capitalism. We're not in free market anymore, which actually shows to the strength of Bitcoin, shows to the strength of cryptocurrencies, because that is a transaction that's made person to person without that central entity. That's so a guy named Satoshi Nakamoto. No one really knows much about him. No one knows who it is, if it was a group of people, who it was. In their white paper, 8 pages of what is Bitcoin that they put out before Bitcoin even went live. It was that crash of 2008. They're like, hey, we designed this because of the crash of 2008. The central banks, we bailed out the wrong people. We bailed out the big banks. We bailed out the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and we bailed out the wrong people. So they come up with a digital currency that is person-to-person transaction, proof of work, meaning if you transact with me, 30 other people are validating that transaction, and it has a limited supply. The supply is only put out when people work, and they validate those transactions. And every 4 years, the supply is halved. So instead of quantitative easing, which is where the Fed's just printing, it's like quantitative hardening. They're actually cutting that supply. And we've seen over the time of Bitcoin being out, every 4 years, and in this cycle, it has huge returns. And it's because that supply gets halved. When supply gets cut, demand goes up. And then when you couple that with the dollar, and the dollar continues to lose value, not only do you have an asset that's raising in just value in and of itself, now you're pairing it against the dollar, so the dollar's losing value, and Bitcoin's going up. It's going up in 2 different reasons. One, because it's just a hard asset. It's a limited supply. Number 2, you're pairing it against the dollar.
Yeah.
Bitcoin could go to $1 million.
Yeah.
It could go to 10 million. 20 million. It doesn't matter.
Well, it could this year because
Yes.
how many dollars do you produce?
Exactly. $2 trillion is only what they say. $2 trillion is what Congress approves. But by the time you look at the Fed's balance sheet, that $2 trillion is nothing. And last year, the Fed's balance sheet doubled.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's debt for us. That's debt for our kids. It's really debt for the world. I mean, the United States runs the world.
Well, and that's kind of we're kind of veering off again,
Yeah.
but it's kind of interesting that we print fake dollars and send it to other countries, and they send us real stuff and we consume it,
Yeah.
refrigerators and things like that. So essentially it is making the world poorer by us doing the monetary system that we have.
Yeah.
I think let's back up a little bit with Bitcoin, because this was the hardest thing for me to get my head around is like, okay, white paper, proof of work, da-da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? You go down that and you're going, well, I'm still in the mindset of, okay, a house has value. gold has value. This seems like a video game thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, so the white paper itself, if I understand it, and I've read through it, it's pretty interesting to read, is a software. Well, so it outlines what its purpose is and everything else, but it's a protocol.
Yeah.
So it's a protocol that, and there again, it's hard to understand why this would have value, but it's a protocol that is in cyberspace, but it's networked up with a bunch. So there's a whole network around the world that is keeping up this ledger, basically. It's like I write down how much Bitcoin I have, and then everybody else in the room writes down how much Bitcoin I have. And then if me and you switch one Bitcoin, then everybody writes that down.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it gets formed into blocks, right?
Yeah.
And that's the work that goes on, is everybody is working to do that. And
That's the blockchain. So when you hear blockchain, it's because all of that work gets put into blocks.
yeah. And then one of the people working to keep up that blockchain gets paid a fee for that, right?
Yeah.
So was it 16 and now it's 8 or something like that? I can't remember what the numbers is. I haven't looked at the numbers for a while.
So I believe in the last halving.
I'm trying to think what it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't even know.
It's
Say it was 16 per block of work before, and like I said, I don't know if there's the actual number or not. But so now after the halving, that same amount of work only gets 8 of whatever it is, 8 units of Bitcoin, whatever.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be 8 Bitcoin, but that'd be sweet.
Yeah.
So it gets halved. So now, just because of that, there's going to be less circulating supply, and which is going to cause the value to go up. Also, I guess on top of that is all the Bitcoin that's been lost,
Which isn't even talked about.
Yeah. So wasn't it the max that was going to get produced was 21 million, about something like that?
And that's fixed. That'll never change. There will only be 21 million ever produced.
Yeah. And so there again, that's all written into a protocol, which is kept up on a blockchain, and that's what gives it the value.
Yeah.
Is the ability to transact in something that's fixed.
Yes. Now, I don't want to be completely naive to the fact that if we had this massive global crisis, let's say a meteor hits anywhere, France. I just don't want to throw a country under the bus.
Yeah.
It hits France, and global catastrophe. I don't want to be blind to the fact that maybe at that point blockchain actually wouldn't have that much value. You know, gold, silver, wood, because you can hold it and it's there. Mm-hmm. But barring any like crazy catastrophe that I hope never happens, it's just going to continue in value because you have the money printing and you have the fixed supply. Now, Bitcoin was the first that caught traction. So they come up with the white paper. They actually transacted in Bitcoin, really just like a bunch of nerds on the computer for like a year and a half before it was ever even given value. So they were proving for a year and a half or 2 years that this could work. This could be a digital currency that works. And then finally someone says, hey, I want 2 pizzas. And I'm willing to pay 10,000 Bitcoin for those 2 pizzas. Now, at the time, Bitcoin still had no value. It was just a bunch of nerds that were trading it. So someone's like, hey, I'll take you up on that. Gets 2 Papa John's pizzas delivered to this guy, and the guy sends him 10,000 Bitcoin.
Wasn't it like even somebody from, wasn't it different continents?
I don't know.
Like one was, I
that'd
think
be
I
awesome.
saw something, where it was like they were on different continents, I think, and made the transaction, which is kind of cool because it really leads into what I think the big value is of it.
Which is time and space, correct?
Yeah, well, and transportability, I guess, would that be a word? Just say, to me, I think the big aha moment was, say I want to move to another country and I want to take, I have a vault full of gold and I want to take that with me, and it's $1 million of gold. That takes a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of,
And you have to declare it in customs.
yeah, you have to declare it and pay probably some taxes from the country you're coming from. And, there's just a whole lot of stuff. With Bitcoin, you can have that on your cell phone. You actually don't even need to have it on your cell phone. As long as you have your keys and your seed phrase, you can have it in your brain and move anywhere in the world, and boom, you have your $1 million of wealth with you.
Yeah. I think we understand this enough that, like, when we're talking, we say seed phrase, and people are like, what the crap is a seed phrase?
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So people will say in the cryptocurrency space, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. So you actually have private keys. It's a passphrase that's usually 12 to 20 words, and I might have a password. I think we even talked about password last time, but a passphrase or the keys, if it's in your brain or it's written down somewhere and no one can ever see it, it's unhackable. Like, it's so, the statistics to actually hack that would be too out there. You can't do it. So you can actually own your Bitcoin by knowing your passphrase. And that's why, we go to Mexico. I have all of our cryptocurrency with us because we have the passphrases or the passcodes or, whatever it is. So that's what it is. If someone's like, hey, what's a seed phrase? You just know your phrase, which is connected to your cryptocurrency. And so you own it.
And so we could talk about this too right here, is the difference between an exchange and a wallet.
Yeah.
Because the seed phrase and keys are just associated with a wallet, right? So you would go to, say, Coinbase or Kraken or whatever exchange you want, and that's where you would purchase. You exchange dollars or yen or euros or whatever for Bitcoin or any other crypto that they have on there. It's still not technically in your wallet. You have to move it from that exchange out into a wallet, and there's a ton of different wallets. That's when it becomes solely your responsibility, really, to take care of those seed phrases, and keys and all of that stuff, so that it's there.
And that's where you hear about people throwing their computer away that had thousands of Bitcoin on it, and they lost all these millions of dollars. Really, they lost their nerdy Bitcoin back in the day before they knew that it was going to have any value.
Yeah.
Now, that's actually a positive. It's a real big negative for those who have thrown their laptops away when they didn't know that it was going to have value. But for anyone else that's getting into the space, when you say 21 million max supply, but 5 million of those have been lost, that's like you have taken 10% of the gold or 20% of the gold and you've jolted it out in the universe and you can never get it back.
Yeah.
It increases the value. And people don't even know what has been lost. So I feel for everyone who's lost it, but at the same time, it's just going to increase the value.
Yeah. Well, and I think, too, like with the losing it thing, this is kind of cool, too. Kind of cool and scary to me. So say that guy that lost his laptop. Well, he could have those Bitcoin back if he just knew his seed phrase for his wallet. He could probably get it on his cell phone now.
Yeah.
Just, download that wallet, put in your seed phrase, and up it comes. So I think that's the other cool thing, too, that people don't understand is like, oh, well, what if I lose my phone? That's got all my stuff on it. Well, no, it doesn't. Your seed phrase and your keys do. And get another phone and download the wallet and upload it, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool that way.
So because crypto is kind of like the ultimate in fixed supply and interpersonal transactions and everything, businesses have latched onto it and they go, hey, I'm gonna make money off of this. And a big one is liquidity. So they want to be able to have enough crypto on their exchange in order to be able to freely transact. And in doing so, they're able to earn enough money on people and transaction fees that they can actually pay interest now. So we actually keep a lot on an exchange, even though it's not technically as secure, we choose to because we make a decent amount of interest on it. USDC, which is tied to the dollar. So
that's only, just a coin,
yep,
right?
Yep, it'll only ever be $1 because it's just $1 in. $1 is one USD coin. So one. Mm-hmm. But it earns 8.5% interest.
That's awesome.
It's nuts. We put it in the bank, you lose money because of inflation and whatever else. Money printing, quantitative easing. 8.5%, that's huge. Yeah. People are dying for 8.5% interest. Well, so we actually keep it on exchanges. We earn 5% Bitcoin, 5% Ethereum. So we choose that. Now, Cardano is another one that we can get into. We keep that one on a hard wallet. Like, we keep that because that's our largest holding. I want to be careful with it. But at the same time, we get staking rewards. So this is a lot. There's so much. This could be like a 5-hour episode.
So, but keeping it on an exchange and getting interest on it, I guess that could be kind of more like a bank account. You could, know, for people that are like trying to wrap their head around this and everything, like that's kind of a bank account. You whatever, access it the same as a bank account or whatever, password, username. The wallet would be maybe more like taking it you're taking your dollars out and you're storing them in actually your wallet, I guess, or whatever.
Just say camera's too hot?
I don't know what's up with that. Should we pause for a sec?
Yeah.
All right, we're back.
We're back.
So, talking about exchanges and wallets versus like a bank, I guess. So we were talking how you can keep it on an exchange. It's kind of like a bank account. Get interest and everything off of it. But then once you take it from that and put it in a wallet, it's kind of like taking money out of a bank and putting it in a wallet.
Or a safe. I guess. You could think of it as
like you're taking your cash physically out, setting it aside. But there's still ways to get returns on that too, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of cool. So
yeah, it's so awesome. It's the future. Everyone should be doing it.
Well, yeah. It's definitely been interesting to learn and watch and be a part of and involved in. It's been pretty cool. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, so we've talked about Bitcoin and what kind of Bitcoin is. What about, because people are going to say, well, there's 1,000 different cryptos. How do I know that? And some are different, some are the same. But to me, it's interesting to see the different technology associated with each because, I mean, there's some that are people are just playing around with it, seems like. But some of the big ones and the main ones that we hear about are actually trying.
All right.
Cool.
So you were talking about the different technologies.
Yeah, so it seems like, so Bitcoin kind of, in my mind, was developed in the beginning as a sound money.
Yeah.
And that was the primary purpose of it, which I think it's fulfilling.
Yeah.
But then as we kind of move into some of the other ones, they are taking that same technology of a distributed ledger, so it can't be hacked or it can't be falsified, and using that technology to solve a specific problem or create a new, better way to do things, whether, we can get into some of that. But so it's kind of cool to see something that started as a concept that started as a money to now move into some things that really can revolutionize our world and the way we do business and interact with each other.
Yeah.
So, like, I think about Ethereum kind of is the next one that everybody talks about. And yes, it's traded as a money, but I guess I would say it's not necessarily really a money. It's more of a way to conduct business through contracts and digital media and that kind of stuff that is associated with that. I mean, and I'm not techie at all, so I kind of have a hard time understanding some of that stuff. But it's interesting to me that even though it's traded as a money, I think it derives its value different than what Bitcoin does.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that is 100%. And I think that the way that we could look at it is if we tried to put a value on the internet. The internet has infinite value because we are now able to transact globally, communication, so many different people in so many different places that are now connected. Well, Bitcoin did that through a proof of work algorithm. So you send me Bitcoin, it gets validated several times. We know that it's a real transaction, can't be falsified, can't be double spent. Now you have Ethereum, which is kind of like the second cryptocurrency to really gain traction. And that became a smart contract platform, meaning that if you wanted to build a contract on it, you and I wanted a contract, it could be built in the algorithm or in your contract to where when you fulfill something and I fulfill something, that contract gets made. So when that contract gets made and done, it is then put into the blockchain. And it's also validated. It's validated by several different people, and we know that it's real, it's true. And this could go anywhere. This could go from you and I having a contract to governments having a contract, birth certificates, death certificates, something that Cardano, which is the founder of Cardano is Charles Hoskinson. He's a co-founder of Ethereum. Something that they're tackling right now is Africa. There are people that have had land in their families for generations that someone moves in and they go, hey, this land is mine. Like, no, it's been in my family for generations. I don't care. I have more power than you. Well, you can now take these smart contracts to third world countries, fourth world countries, and you can actually get land deeds that are put onto a blockchain. These people that have never had money in the sense they're back at the barter system. Hey, I need food. Okay, well, I need labor. All right, let's trade. They're completely back to the barter system. We're able to come in now and actually give them these smart contracts. They can have sound money because a lot of them have cell phones. And even if they don't, there's wallets that can connect and they can transact through digital means that cost way less than trying to put a currency in or whatever it would be. And they can have land deeds, they can have birth certificates, death certificates. There's so many people in this world that live, we don't even know that they're here. Or when they die, we don't know that they die. Bitcoin's cool because it's a store of value, and it's just going to continue to go up in value. These other ones, Ethereum, Polkadot, Cardano, it's a world changer. It's a complete game changer.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's what I wonder is with some of the, which it's interesting. It's still hard for me to wrap my mind around the concept of it being a technology, but I can buy some.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of because it's different than, well, the company McDonald's is selling hamburgers and you're buying a share of that contract. It's different than that.
Yeah.
And I don't really know how to describe it, but it's cool that we are able to have a piece of that and take part in that. And so it makes you wonder has our technology caught up to the point, before when we've had these big run-ups in price of crypto and stuff, I don't feel like we had quite the potential there and the use case for it.
Yeah.
Now we do.
Yeah.
So are we kind of at a time when, yes, there's this big run-up, but it's kind of because we can finally see the value of this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, there's huge institutional buy-in. Back in the day, people would, of big institutions and organizations, banks, they'd be like, hey, Bitcoin's nothing. It's going to go to zero. Well, 10 years later, it's still around, and it's gaining traction. Like you said, use case. There's use case, and there's millions of use cases at this point, and it will just continue up. And then, because we take capitalism, You take something that was broken in the past and you want to build upon it and make it better and better. You have Ethereum, Polkadot, Luna, Cardano. You have all these other ones that are trying to make it better and better. Well, now it's not just a store of value. You're actually turning it into something. So this would be like we're buying into the internet in the beginning. And instead of buying shares of the internet, which you actually kind of are doing, now you place a value on it, and then all those connections happen. Well, the reason why Bitcoin has gone so much up in value is all of those connections. There's millions of wallets at this point that have 0.001 Bitcoin on them. Well, at that point, and you can start to, if you have a telephone and it's one person with one telephone that does nothing. Well, now you get another telephone. There's one like you can make a phone call and this person can make a phone call back to you. Now you put 3 phones in it, 4 phones, 5 phones, then you get to 1 million. There are hundreds of millions or billions or trillions of transactions that can happen. And that's why the internet blew up. That's why internet-based businesses went crazy. It's the same as far as there's some sort of law that Metcalfe, that's it, Metcalfe's law. That's what explains where all this value is derived from. So Ethereum's huge. It's just going to get bigger. Cardano's huge. It's just going to get bigger. Polkadot's huge. It's just going to get bigger. So from a speculative standpoint, I got into this for the money. I was like, hey, I want to put $10 in and pull $100 out.
Yeah.
At this point, I actually don't think of it so much like that. And I don't want to say that I don't think of it like that because Luna continues to raise by like 5% a day. And I will cash that out at some point. Like it's been done really well. So I'm not going to say I'm not in this for the money.
Yeah.
Cardano, I will have a very tough time ever selling Cardano because I think it's going to change the world.
Yeah.
And I want to be a part of that. And I want to stake that. So we have Cardano staked with the Cardano Foundation, and it earns us about 5% interest every year. Not a ton, but by having that there, that currency is tucked away. And then it's used to help these countries and developing nations and, even companies locally and everything to just build. People are transacting with Cardano in Costa Rica. They're transacting with Cardano in Africa. Well, that's pretty cool. I remember when it was dial-up internet. It was like,
yeah, we had that too.
Yeah. Now we transact digitally.
Yeah.
We can tap our phone and Cardano is transacted. And now people that have had land in their family for generations, they get it taken away by someone in power, we can ensure that they get their land and that they keep it forever. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's, I kind of the same thought process as you. When I first started looking into it and stuff, it's like, oh, well, there's a pretty good chance it's going to go up. So I want to buy some so I can get up, so I can go up, and anyway, make some money on it. But now after looking into it, learning about it and everything else, I'm the same exact way. I mean, I think that there's so many uses that we don't even know. And so it's kind of like, well, it to me has kind of gone from a speculative asset to this is something that really has value and can grow infinitely down the road
and change the world.
Yeah, I mean have you looked into NFTs at all? I know that's a hot topic at the moment, but
I can wrap my head around Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano. I do not understand NFTs because I'm like, digital art, huh?
Yeah.
But it all comes down to who owns it.
Well, and so an NFT is a non-fungible token. So this is, and it's been interesting to kind of watch. I feel like I keep up on financial stuff pretty well. And, daily I'm looking and studying and trying to figure out what's going on. It's kind of been interesting because NFTs, I feel, obviously they've been around for a long time, but the last month or two, it's just
Blown
exploded.
up.
Like, I don't know if it's because Gary Vee was talking
Yeah.
about it or what, but so I've been looking into it just a little bit, and I still, same thing, can't fully wrap my head around it. But I heard an interview by Raoul Paul
Yeah.
last night that I listened to that kind of helped me out a little bit. So the NFT is non-fungible token. These artists are going on there, creating a piece of art, and then selling the rights of that off so that somebody is owning a digital piece of art, basically,
Yeah.
and the rights and everything to that. But he said, so how's that any different than a physical piece of art?
Yeah.
You know, say somebody has a original, the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Well, we can print Mona Lisas like crazy and hang them up in wherever, you know. So,
But you don't own it.
but you don't own, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And almost the printing of more fake ones or just reproductions probably actually raises the value more because people like it and they want it, you know. So the more you think of printing a whole bunch of paintings might devalue it. Well, if it's not the original,
Yeah.
it's getting people hooked on that painting or whatever to where they like it and they value it, and then owning the original is just that much better. So that's
Yeah.
what he kind
That's
of
cool.
talked about is, who cares? It's what's a physical painting? It's canvas with paint on it is all it is.
Yeah.
But the value is derived from who created it, what kind of aesthetic, I guess, value there is there, and that kind of thing.
And limited supply.
And limited supply. There's only one.
Yeah.
You know.
Or so I've bought and sold 3 NFTs.
Yeah.
It's an app called Vive, something like that. And it's like people are making DC comics, and I could care less. Me personally,
yeah.
that would be cool to own the Mona Lisa. Like I'm down.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, like the Joker and Harley Quinn and Batman, I don't care. But I saw that there's only 5 of each of them created. And I was like, $30? You know, I'll buy one. Sold each of them for $60. I'm like, I could care less, but I just doubled my money.
Yeah.
So that's the speculative side where I'm like, hey, I'm cool, like kind of playing the system, you know, like I'm here to make some money. Like that's fine. Contribute to my family's future. But it's still so weird. So anyways,
I heard another use case for it the other day too is, and this one is out there for me just because I don't value this, but it's $1 billion industry. And so there is value out there. So I think that's the other thing for me that I've had to go through with crypto is getting rid of my biases and saying, okay, it doesn't matter if I value it or not. If there's a value and a use for it, then it's important to learn about and see if there's an opportunity there. And I think that those kind of things are all around us. It's just figuring it out. But so the use case for this other NFT was, or another 4 NFTs was like skins, like games in skins in video games. And so like I've got a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they're both playing like Roblox and Fortnite and, you know, all the Minecraft and everything. And they're always telling me about these skins. And I didn't really know. I was like, I'm used to the Mario, you know, so I'm thinking like, okay, a skin would be when he gets the frog suit back in the day or whatever, you know, which I think is kind of what it is. I don't know. But so, you know,
but you don't own the frog suit.
Bodie the other day, yes, exactly. Bodie the other day was telling me, you know, about all these skins that he had gotten and whatever. Well, so this interview that I was listening to, he said that's another use for an NFT is what if there is one ultimate Batman skin and you can buy that and you're the only one in the world that has this skin.
Yeah.
And he said too that it will get to the point to where you can take that skin around to all of your games. So say you're playing Fortnite, say you're playing Roblox, say you're playing Halo. I don't know. Is Halo still a game? I don't even know. But you can take that with you to each, because the games are going to be able to talk.
Which crypto and interoperability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which he said too, even like say you have a PlayStation and say you have an Xbox, you used to have to be on the same network. Now I think now they can interchange and you can play the same game with somebody on an Xbox if you're on a PlayStation. So that interoperability,
Yeah.
you know, here you can buy a NFT, which is a skin for a video game, your character, and you can take that same Coach Tyler M character to all of your games and use it. So I thought,
Yeah.
you know, that's very interesting. And there again, I don't value it personally necessarily, but there's billions of dollars around it.
And
You know.
NFL teams are getting in on it, NBA. And take that, that's Bitcoin 10 years ago. When people are like, nah, it's stupid, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand it either. I don't understand NFTs. I think it's crazy. But I'm
going to learn about it.
I'm going to learn about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was another one that I heard too that they're actually going to be able to do smart contracts to where, like, say I buy a piece of art from you, you're an artist, and I pay you $1,000 or whatever, and then a year from now you make it big and, you know, your art is all over the news, whatever. Well, that piece of art that I bought from you a year ago for $1,000 is now worth $1 million.
Yeah.
Well, I get all the benefit of that.
Yeah, because you own it.
You don't get the benefit of that as the creator.
Yeah.
And so they're saying there's actually ways now too that they will be able to, I guess through contracts or whatever, make sure that the creator also gets a piece of that.
That's awesome.
Kind of thing, which is pretty cool. I mean, that's never been able to happen before. So
Yeah. We get phone calls very frequently from companies that are trying to get us to buy licenses to play music in the gym. Because all the artists that have made they've actually written the music, then they sell it to a musician. They get that initial benefit, but then they never get any benefit after that. Now, in my mind, I'm like, well, this is free market economy. You're the one who sold it, and you're the one who gave your rights away. So at that point, that's your fault. Mm-hmm. But in this case, maybe every time that's played, they go, hey, that smart contract, it shows that it was played. This was played 1 trillion times, and you make 0.000001 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Every time that's sold. Or every time it's played. That's cool. There's a use case. I could see that.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. And efficiency too.
Yeah.
You know, think about the efficiency of that system. And even just back to that's thinking about all of that kind of stuff is mind blowing really, because we're just scratching the surface of it, I feel like. But even just back to Bitcoin, you know, when I made my first transaction with Bitcoin, I was blown away at how efficient it was.
Yeah.
You know, if I wanted to move money from one bank to another, like I even had a bank that was like, well, here, you have to fill out this change of address thing, send it in, then fill out this other thing. And then, you know, I mean, it was like a 3-week process to get money moved from one bank account to another. With Bitcoin, I mean, it's
10 minutes.
It's minutes. If it's busy, it's maybe a couple hours. Yep. But there's some that are
Cardano's instant.
Yeah,
yep.
Exactly. So how much paperwork and how many people, secretaries and managers, and you know, which is kind of scary to think about, that there's a lot of jobs that could go away because of the efficiency, but that also drives costs down as well.
Yeah, exactly. Technology cost should go down as technology increases.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole idea. Is a VCR for my parents cost $1,000 or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But now, well, you can't even buy a VCR, but you can buy a DVD player for $15 because the cost of technology should come down with time.
Mm-hmm. As efficiency goes up, it's an efficiency thing.
Now, you had the refrigerator. Back in the day, there was a butcher on every corner because you couldn't refrigerate meat. So you had to get the beef, cut it up, sell it within a few days. Well, when the refrigerator was made, a lot of butchers went out of business.
Yeah.
They all found work. They all found places to go. And yeah, I feel for them. But at the same time, we have to drive that future and let that future happen. And jobs will open up in other places, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
I know that that's actually been a hindrance to technology. People go, but it's gonna lose jobs, and like that's cool that you're such a great human that you worry about their jobs. But we can also drive the future.
Yeah.
We can make it better.
Well, and I think that even though maybe jobs are lost, the efficiency should make up for that to improve quality of life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which could bring us into a whole other subject of, man, people back in the day, they would go to work, or they'd go out and fish. They'd make their food they'd get their food for the day, and then or they'd go to work and they'd come home 8 hours later. We never stop now.
Yeah.
We just go. And if we could learn to actually live life and use cryptocurrencies and not be completely reliant on outworking for the dollar that continues to lose value, the world could just be such a better place.
Well, and there was a quote that and this was, I don't know, it might have been Andrew Carnegie or something, but somebody back during the industrial age, said that technology eventually will get to the point where humans, the hardest part of a human's life will be figuring out how to fill their time. Essentially that technology will be so efficient. But it's kind of interesting, like you're saying, it's kind of gone the other way.
Yeah.
We don't shut off now and enjoy life like we should. But, I mean, some of that could be because we have to, because of imperfect money.
Yeah.
Really.
I think so. It's so tied.
We have to work more to be able to maintain a standard of living. Yeah. And, and I think that it's because of inefficiency, and especially inefficiency in our money system. I really do. But it comes back to that.
Yeah, and we look to and I'm not anti-government. I'm not at all. But we look to government for solutions as a society. But you have people that have entered Congress and they look around like Ron Paul. He's a pretty practical guy and stuff. He said that Congress they don't want to understand money. They want to get reelected. So they get in with all these promises, and then they just pass more bills to spend more money that doesn't exist to get reelected. Like, government doesn't want to know and understand money because it doesn't get them reelected. So, I mean, I'm going off the rail here, but it all plays in because in 1913, when the government and really large bankers got together and they created the idea of the Federal Reserve, and then that idea has been passed, legislated, and then has trickled until 1971. And they even started devaluing money before. So I get a monthly subscription to that. It's GMR Gold, little plug for them.
Yeah.
It's awesome. We get fractional gold and silver, and yesterday we got platinum, which was pretty cool. We don't have any platinum. So I was looking up this 1926 peace dollar, and it's only 0.7 ounces. I'm like, wait a second. A dollar is supposed to be an ounce.
1 ounce, yeah. 1 ounce of silver, right? It's in the Constitution.
Yes.
Correct?
So I believe so. It was the Coinage Act of like 1819 or something like that. So it's an appendage. Yeah. But, I'm like...
Well, I guess, so in the Constitution it says money shall be gold and silver, right? And then it spells it out later on. Yeah. Is that how it works?
I believe so. I guess I should look into that because I don't want to say with certainty, yes. But I do believe that an ounce of silver is supposed to be $1. That's why,
an eagle.
Yes. As
Used
an
to
ounce.
be, yeah.
Well, with 0.7 ounces, I'm like, wait a second, that's 1926. Who's minting this? Where's this coming from? Why? And why is it 0.7 ounces? They started devaluing, and this is what governments have done forever, is they take your ounce of gold and they make it 0.9. And they make it 0.8. Caesars or the Caesars of Rome would do this every time there was a change. They would take all the money from people, they would melt it down, and they would remint it. Well, they would remint it with inflation, making it smaller and smaller so that they could falsely inflate what it was. Well, that works for a while until it collapses. And it always collapses. It will always collapse.
Yeah.
You can't falsely prop it for too long. Hence, we come up with something like Bitcoin. Digital currencies can't be falsified. It can be brought into the smallest fraction. You can buy $1 of Bitcoin, and that ends up being 20 Satoshis or whatever it ends up.
So go ahead.
Well, yeah. So a Satoshi is 100 millionth of a Bitcoin. So its divisibility is infinite, essentially.
Yeah.
Now, this is actually important too, because I've had people come and they're like, hey, so I don't want to get into Bitcoin because I think it's too late. I want to get into Cardano because it's $1. And $1 versus 55,000, it's a big difference. Mm-hmm. Well, there's also a huge supply difference. You have 21 million Bitcoin, you have like 145 billion Cardanos, 141-ish million Ethereum. So I don't think people should just look at the value of what it is. It doesn't matter that Bitcoin's $55,000. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that Cardano is $1. Huge discrepancy in like what's $1 versus what's 55. But $1 of cryptocurrency is $1 of cryptocurrency because it's the supply issues. Yeah. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think too that the hard part for me to wrap my head around is there's a different purpose behind, so
Yeah.
there's the price difference and the supply difference between, say, Bitcoin and Cardano, but there's also a huge use difference too. Like Bitcoin's just kind of money, I guess. And,
and store of value, right?
Yeah, yeah. And Cardano is a technology, so I mean, I get where people look at them and go, oh, well, one's cheaper than the other and this and that. Well, yes, but there's value there for a different reason,
Yes.
I guess, too, is an important thing to look at as well. Are you interested in future technology, or are you just interested in a store of value, I guess? I don't know.
And I want people to understand, too, Bitcoin is designed to never stop pumping. It might have temporary pullbacks, but as long as we continue on a money printing path, Bitcoin will never stop increasing in value. It's just basic economics, but real economics, not the crap that's taught in major universities, Keynesian lies.
Well, I mean, a defined supply of anything should keep pumping.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, isn't that the main driver for it pumping, is it's a limited supply?
Yeah, I think so.
That's got to be...
And that it's tied to a fiat currency. So fiat's where they just can print when they want to and what they want to.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, we've now found that water costs money because it's finite. Clean, non-salty water is a finite resource, so it costs money now.
Yeah.
Everything. It's so crazy. And it makes me excited, but also kind of angry at, I don't want to just say the government, because we've allowed it. The government is us, in a sense. Mm-hmm. We've allowed this to happen, and we've been blind to it. I've been blind to it. I did the norm, what you're supposed to do, go to college, get a job, contribute to 401k. Well, we both have a friend who looked into 401ks and how much fees he's paying. Over his lifetime, he's paying like $1 million in fees to his 401k.
Yeah.
Well, if you were to take that $1 million in fees and put it into Bitcoin, put it into a hard asset, gold, silver, where would your family be 50 years from now?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think that brings up the most important part of all of it, whether it's crypto, whether it's gold and silver, whether it, anything money-wise, is education.
Yeah.
I mean, because everybody's going to have a different goal. Everybody's going to have different risk tolerance. Everybody's going to have a different, desire, whether they want cash flow from that asset or whether they want capital gains from that asset or, what they're looking to invest in. And I think that's where we've gone so wrong as a society is we think of education as just that, school,
Yeah.
but I was never taught anything about money in school, really. It's been my own self-education that's done that, and that's a lot of trial and error and who to listen to and that kind of stuff. But I think more and more as we go down this road of the fiat currency and just the way that we're going economically, I think it's more important than ever for people to dive in and understand what is an asset. A lot of people don't even know what the asset classes are, the 4 or 5 asset classes. And it's just interesting to me that we work so hard for our money, but yet we want to pass that off to somebody else to manage and not really look into how does money grow, how does money work, how is our Federal Reserve system set up. I mean, all of that. I mean, it's. I think we would be in such a different place as a society and as individuals if we would learn that and then take more responsibility for it. So
yeah, I hope everybody knows that the Federal Reserve is not federal and it's not a reserve. It is so nuts to me.
And it says so on the Fed's website, right?
Yeah.
It says that
They're so open to
it's
it.
a private institution. You can find all of it on there. It's not anything secret.
No. And every president that has gone against it in a certain way has had issues. Lincoln wanted to put out the greenbacks. He had an issue.
Yeah.
Kennedy, he wanted to. Essentially, he wasn't for going away from the gold standard.
Yeah.
He had issues.
Yeah. So
Anyways.
but it's interesting because, even then, I think we as individuals can do things that we become sovereign from some of that stuff. As we get our education, as we look for opportunities to invest and grow wealth and how wealth works, then we kind of reduce the effect that the Federal Reserve or whatever it is, the government or a virus, really.
Absolutely.
If we are financially free and sovereign, then those things will have less effect on us, I guess.
Yeah, and I think sovereign can kind of be taken out of context because I think sometimes we think of sovereign as trying to be secret. It's not so much that. It's that if I want to go live in Zimbabwe or I want to go visit South Africa, I want to take my wealth with me.
Yeah.
Not saying we have a ton of it, but I can't bring an ounce of gold or 5 ounces of gold. I have to declare that. We can be sovereign because of the technology that exists. Now there's more efficiencies. I don't have to try to truckload and have all of that cost. Now Bitcoin has a cost too. That's something, and it's funny because it's coming out in the media now. Like, oh, Bitcoin's really expensive to run. It's gonna drain our world of energy because it costs so much to run. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. They're already figuring out how to capture it. They're like, how natural gas offset it's like a whale, like it blows out of the ground in different places.
Yeah.
Well, there's a place in Canada. They just plopped a Bitcoin mining
right next to
it. Right over top of it. And so they're actually taking that natural Earth's output of energy, and they're like, sweet, we run our whole Bitcoin mining off of Earth's natural energy. It's just we're so quick to throw blame in certain places when really Bitcoin's going to make the world better.
Yeah.
It's going to be such a better place. And that's funny to even say because I actually, relative to other currencies, cryptocurrencies, we have very little Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's the technology aspect.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's interesting. Here we started a conversation about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and we've talked about government, we've talked about personal accountability, all those
Yeah.
things. And I think wrapped up in crypto and Bitcoin, that's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah.
Is, being making ourselves better, making ourselves wealthier and not having so much to do with other entities. I don't know. It's kind of
No,
interesting.
I think you're right. I have a tough time, and I want to say I love it when people are like, "Hey, I want to get into crypto. What do I buy?" I think that's awesome because I've regurgitated enough stuff that I've learned on YouTube that people are like, "Hey, what would you do?" But two, I have a tough time answering it because one, buy Bitcoin because it's that store of value. It's just going to continue to go up. But then two, start looking into these currencies, into these, whether it's just, you could go to CoinGecko and then look at the top cryptocurrencies. So you're going to have Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, which is just a stable coin. So that's linked to the dollar. Binance coin, which is an exchange. Binance is an exchange. They've created a cryptocurrency. They're one of the top now. Polkadot, Cardano, and then start going down through the list and just research them. These are world changers. One that I love, it's probably one of our biggest holdings, is Voyager. Voyager is an app that people can download. It's a brokerage service. So we talked wallets and exchanges. This one's actually different. It's a brokerage service, so they go out to the exchanges and they find the best deal. And they're going to have a debit card. They're not even open in Canada and the UK yet. They pay 8.5% on USD coin. And you can have your checks direct deposited into Voyager. That could be your bank that you don't lose money in.
Yeah.
Because you're making 8.5%.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you can take that, you can move it over to Bitcoin or whatever you want. And looking into these different currencies and what they do, I love Cardano because I think Cardano is a world changer. But same with Polkadot and same with Ethereum to an extent. I just believe in Cardano a lot more. Mm-hmm. So that's our largest holding. And it's the cryptocurrency that I never want to sell. If Luna goes up, I look at it and I'm like, oh, I want to sell that. It's up 600%. Cool. I don't want to sell Cardano. It's going to change the world. I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
So if people were, like, let's say you had $1,000, where would you put it?
So I kind of it's been interesting because, like I said before, I kind of, just started at Bitcoin and went, hey, I want to learn it, too. I think that's the important thing, too, is if you want to learn something, buy some of it because your interest level immediately goes up and you're like, hey, I got to figure out what this is. So I kind of started there and then same thing, looked at some different things going forward as far as uses and stuff. I think for me right now, and you turned me on to Cardano, but I think that just after looking at all of it, I think that the use is there. Not so, if I was looking at something to just say, I want to store value there, I still think Bitcoin and Ethereum are the big ones. They're well known. People kind of compare them to gold and silver.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of the big, well-known ones that I feel like is probably going to get the most investment. And, with the market cap going up too, Bitcoin is now over $1 trillion of market cap. That allows hedge funds and some of these other people to be able to invest in it, whereas some of these other smaller ones, they're not able to go there yet. And I don't understand how all that works, but I guess that it has to be big enough for some of these institutions to invest in. But so I think, if I was just going to say, hey, go out, if you want to research something or invest in something, look at these two, and then start going from there. But I like Cardano. I think that it has, that I feel like it's an investment in technology
Yeah.
and not just an investment in money.
Yeah.
Whereas and Ethereum, I feel a little bit that way too, especially with these NFTs and stuff coming.
Yeah.
Most of that is being conducted on Ethereum. So it's kind of interesting. There is, Ethereum has some problems that it's trying to iron out as opposed to, some of these other ones that are, I think, have seen those problems and ironed them out ahead of time, like Cardano. But Ethereum really is getting a lot of the technologically advanced stuff, I feel like, right now with NFTs and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, it's pretty cool.
It's fun. I actually I enjoy talking about it so much because it is the future. And as much as every once in a while I'm like, oh, I really want to cash that out because, you also have to pay for life. And if we have consumer debt, I want to pay that consumer debt off. It's also like, crap, I don't want to sell that because the potential upside, you get all these people on YouTube and stuff, they have their price predictions. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
But I think it's only up. I don't think there's any downside. Now there's temporary setbacks, right? So what would happen is Bitcoin hits 62,000, people get really excited. They jump in and it pulls back 30%. They're like, I'm going to lose all my money, and they sell.
Yeah.
Worst thing that you could possibly do. Wait a month and it will come back. I just have such a tough time pulling profits, even though you're supposed to. You're supposed to pull profits.
Well, and I think that's where it goes back to the mindset. Is somebody set and they're like, I want to throw something in that I'm not going to look at for 30 years.
Yeah.
Or something. Then that's a different mindset than, hey, I can make some good profits here in the next year or 6 months, move that into something else that I can grow in the meantime if there is a downside risk.
Yeah.
So I think it comes back to everybody's own goals and what they're looking to do. Are they looking to be kind of in a short-term thing just to make money, or are they looking to invest long-term in the future and that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Because I think, right now, obviously we're in a huge bull run, and so the downs, looking into next year, it's like, well, is there a chance to pull out, and make some money and then buy back in, because I think for me, I originally was like, okay, I'm just going to make some money and then I'm gone and I'm not coming back ever again. Now I'm like, there is some real value here going forward.
Yeah.
So how much do you hang out until that, down the road, and how much do you try to take profits in the short term? It's hard.
It's all personal goals,
Yeah.
I like I said, I have a tough time selling it, but in May, I might feel different when it's way up and you look at it and you go, okay, well, then the account still stays where it's at, or it's had a huge run. And so you can, but just personal goals. I think Bitcoin, if someone were just getting into it, just like you said, buy Bitcoin and then start studying it, and just don't stop studying it until you feel like you understand it enough to know whether you want to take your money out or not. I think the more that we learn, the less I want to take.
Yeah. It's been interesting.
Okay, so you have silver and gold.
Yeah.
I don't know how much or whatever, but
Yeah.
do you ever want to sell it?
Not really.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Because why do we get into it? To make a profit. That's why I wanted to hedge against the dollar, because I don't really believe in it anymore and all that.
Yeah.
But then the more that you acquire, same thing. I don't have millions of dollars of cryptocurrency. I don't have $1 million of silver and gold. I never want to sell it.
Yeah.
Because it's real.
Well, and it's been interesting lately. Do you, wealthy people, I think, I don't know. I wouldn't consider
We're
myself
so
wealthy.
humble.
I hope someday that I am extremely wealthy. But for the most part, I look at people that I know that are wealthy and they don't sell anything. They just borrow against it.
Yeah.
They borrow against it, and then over time that inflates away, and then it's you can build more that way. The hard part with crypto right now is I feel like it's so volatile that it's hard for people to borrow, to loan money against that. You know what I mean?
For
I mean,
sure.
I mean, there is some,
And it's happening.
but you have
yes.
to put up like 50%. Yeah, I mean, not put up. You only get to borrow 50% of the value or whatever it is, whatever they own it, have in collateral, right? Is that about where it's at?
There's even places that go off of moving averages. So the 50-day moving average is what they'll allow. So let's say the 50-day moving average of Bitcoin is $40,000. And you have one full Bitcoin, they'll let you borrow half of the 40-day moving average.
So 20 grand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's such a speculative asset still that they have to protect themselves.
And that's my hardest part with it is how do you almost have to take capital gains in order to build wealth. You know what I mean? And move it into something else right now in order to build wealth with it rather than just borrowing against it to use it to.
And the upside's so high that where are you going to take that money and put it into something that makes enough of a return that you shouldn't have just bought Bitcoin in the first place?
Yeah.
I can't think of anywhere.
Well, yeah. And that's definitely true of the last year.
Yeah, true.
6 months, a year from now, it might be back to where we are now. I don't know. You know what I mean? And then it's like, oh, well, I mean, obviously it would have been better to pull profits at the top, move it into something else, and then rather than take the downside.
I wish I had a crystal ball.
But it's crazy because like listening to experts in the field that are looking at this stuff. I mean, I listened to one the other day, and there's two guys, and they're both well known in Bitcoin and stuff. And he's like, "So what's your forecast for the year?" And they're talking like till fall time.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I don't know, like $300,000 to $500,000." And the other guy's like, "Oh, okay, yeah. So my projection's in there then, in that range." And it's like, these aren't guys that are pie in the sky trying to run this stuff up. These guys have been in it for 10 years, or since it was pretty much
Since
coming
they
on
put
the scene,
value to it.
and they're very confident in these numbers. And you're just going, it's been incredible so far. For it to go to 300 to 500K is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But they're acting like it's no big deal.
From 2,500 to 20,000 was also unbelievable.
Yeah.
And from 100 to 1,000 was also, or $10 to 1,000 was also unbelievable. But it's kind of an avalanche that can't be stopped at this point. There's too much. There's not just retail investment, which is funny because most people will ask about it when it's at its top.
Yeah.
So when Bitcoin hits 65,000 again, we'll probably have a lot of people that are like, "Hey, tell me about this crypto." And then when it pulls back, they're like, "Ooh, that's scary." So as it hits all-time highs, that's when people want to get in. Well, the retail investors aren't even in it like they were in 2017. 2017, there was like, I don't know, 1 million wallets created or something like that. And that's one reason why the price skyrocketed. We're not even there yet.
Isn't there guys, don't they actually, they're tracking the amount of wallets that are opened, the amount of Google searches, all these things. And I haven't listened for a while, but not too long ago, guys were like, it's not even on the radar yet compared to what it was. Is that?
Yeah, 2017 was huge. People were listening as it was in its huge run-up, and then they were Google searching it, and the Google searches almost track the price better than the price itself. Like, the more searches there are on Google, it's going to go up because people are not just searching it, they're building their wallets, they're creating it, they're buying it. As people are buying it, the price goes up. Now you have institutions getting in. I mean, the fact that Tesla bought it, it's cool because they bought $1.5 billion worth of it. But what you're not seeing is the $100 million that was put in by private company over here. $10 million put in by private company over here. Then Grandpa hears about it and he's like, well, that's cool. So he puts $1,000 in.
Yeah.
Then other business about it. There's so much money going into the space right now. And honestly, like, even us talking about it and people listening to it, they're early. they're so early to the game. We're 10 years into a currency.
Yeah.
How old's gold and silver?
Thousands.
Yeah. And it's always kept its value. So that's one thing that's kind of cool. I think he talks about it in his Hidden Secrets of Money is $2,000 today will buy you like a really nice suit and some shoes and whatever. Well, that's also, 1 ounce of gold.
Yeah.
That's also what it bought people in ancient Rome.
Yeah.
It bought them a really nice like tunic or whatever you call it and really nice sandals.
Yeah.
And some cologne.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, man, it's so interesting because we're so early. So when people are like, hey, I don't know, I want to get into a different one. I don't want to get in Bitcoin. No. Get in all of it. Research the crap out of it and don't stop because...
Yeah. Well, and I think people just want the answer. They don't, which is fine,
I don't blame them. I want the
fine,
answer
I guess.
too.
Yeah. But it's like saying, well, do I invest in Tesla or do I invest in
Raytheon.
ExxonMobil or whatever? Well, they're completely different companies in
Yeah.
completely different industries, you know, and
Invest in both.
we're gonna invest in different things, you know.
Yeah.
But no, it's pretty cool. I think, like you're saying too. So we have institutions coming in. We have, you know, obviously a lot of retail investors that are interested in it, especially now that we have another stimulus check that's supposedly hitting bank accounts on the 17th.
It hit
Is
ours.
that tomorrow?
We already got it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's today? Today's the 16th. And I think that's the other thing too is we have a lot of things lining up. Then think about the quantitative easing and the money printing that's going on at the Fed as well. So, you know, we think that it's crazy that Bitcoin could hit 100,000 or 300,000 or 500,000, but we don't think that it's crazy that we've just printed $10 trillion. You know, I think the $10 trillion number is so big that people can't relate to it. You know, it's like 10 billion, 10 trillion. Oh, like there's not that much difference there when there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
But 60,000 versus 100,000 versus 300,000, people can quantify that.
Yeah.
You know, and so I wonder if that's kind of the hesitation where we look at everything that's kind of collided all at the same time right now. There's huge potential compared to some of this, you know, the things that have happened in the past with it. So,
Well, in some perspective, I posted this the other day. 0.01 Bitcoin, just got to do the math, is $560 right now. That puts you in the top 13% of Bitcoin holders.
wow.
That's massive.
Yeah.
Everyone can take from their stimulus, can take $560 and put it in. Now, I say everyone. I know that there's like huge economic hardship. There's certain things that are going on, and that's a systemic issue that stems from other things that we don't need to get into. But everyone can scrimp to buy 0.01 Bitcoin and hold it. And that puts you, soon it will put you in the top 10% of the world.
That's crazy.
I mean, that...
Well, I mean, you think, I mean, a couple things on that. I saw an article that said 60% of people receiving a stimulus check said they were going to buy Bitcoin.
That's crazy.
I saw that article yesterday. But then if you think about that too, there's only, okay, so say total amount's 21 million. Say we've lost 5 or 6, so now we're at 15 million.
Yeah.
And that's opened up to the whole world. Now, you know, it's not quite.
Yeah.
But eventually it will be. So how many, you know, you start chopping up Bitcoins, and there's people that, like, I listened to a guy or interview of Michael Saylor, the MicroStrategy guy. They have like 9,000 Bitcoin, I think, is what they have. Like he's like, oh, let me look up the number, you know, looked it up, whatever. So they have 9,000. You know, how many other institutions have thousands?
Yeah.
So you start taking that up. Is there 10 million Bitcoin that can be divvied up between everybody else?
There is a supply crisis.
You know,
I mean, Kira, so my wife's gone on before to buy Bitcoin, and it says, sorry.
Oh, really? The exchange can't even get
on
it.
certain exchanges, it hasn't had the liquidity to make it happen. That's like the other day when silver has a huge run, and you go to the website and you're like, I want to buy silver, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any.
Yeah.
Well, what happens to the price? It goes way up.
Yeah.
And there is a supply crisis right now. And in 3 years, when there's another halving, guess what kind of supply crisis there's going to be? And there's not even close. There's so many millionaires in the world at this point. It's not even close. Not every millionaire can own one Bitcoin. It can't happen. And it never will be able to happen. And that's, I think, what people are starting to wrap their head around is, this has... There was an article, mainstream news article, and said, it's rumored that Bitcoin has a max supply of 21 million. Like, it's rumored. Just read the white paper, and then you know. There's no rumor about it. And yeah, there is a 21 million cap. And guess what that means? Unlimited potential.
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
It's crazy.
Everybody should use part of their stimulus and just buy some Bitcoin. One of the guys that I follow, he said, you should have 0.01 Bitcoin for all your kids. And like that will be generational wealth.
0.01.
Yeah, which is the same as, 0.01 puts you in the top 13%. Mm-hmm. So if you're able to do that for all of your kids, it puts your kids in generational wealth status, which most people don't have anymore. And as time goes on, we're having less and less of it. Just throwing out the word millennial, millennials are not getting out and creating the wealth that their parents and their grandparents did. That wealth is being transferred to them, but that doesn't mean that it's being created and transferred to their parents' grandkids. It's actually being used up by them. So generational wealth was a thing. It's not as much of a thing. But in this guy's opinion, if you have 0.01 Bitcoin for each of your kids, we're now going to be moving into generational wealth status again. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And your kids can actually own the Bitcoin. They can have a seed phrase, and it's theirs. Mm-hmm. And that can be put on a smart contract that gets passed down to them. There's some good music in the background now.
Yeah.
But that gets put on a smart contract that gets passed down to them to where when you die and your death certificate is on a smart contract, it opens up their Bitcoin to go to them. And
don't need any attorneys to do it.
Yep. Unlimited. There doesn't have to be the rotary stamp anymore. There doesn't have to be it's economically sound. It is just amazing. I can't even think of all the words to describe how great it is and how everybody should be in it.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. I agree.
So I guess we talked about a lot. Mm-hmm. But to make it basic and easy at the very end, after we've gone into all the technicals, what are a few places that people can buy cryptocurrency?
So, and I haven't gotten extremely diverse, I guess. Yeah. And that's a good point to bring up because you can go out and buy it on Robinhood.
Yeah.
Supposedly. You're not buying one thing to understand is on some of these things, you aren't actually owning the seed phrase and the keys for that.
Yeah.
Robinhood being one. That's so you can go and buy it on Robinhood and it'll follow the price movement exactly. But you don't just understand that that's not ownership of the Bitcoin. But other, so there's places like that do it. But to actually get the Bitcoin, Coinbase is one that is very well known. Kraken is another one, and those are the two main exchanges and the ones that I've used.
Yeah. Binance, also Binance.us is becoming a big one. I'm completely biased because I've just really enjoyed it and it's given us decent upside is Voyager.
Yeah.
Voyager, that's kind of it's not an exchange, but that is our place of choice to get it at this point.
Yeah.
So people can buy it through there. Storage, would you suggest cold storage right off the bat or maybe hold it for a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. That's kind of, there's two ways that you can store it. So is it called hot storage? There's cold storage and then, so basically if it's in
lukewarm
storage, So moving it off of an exchange and into a wallet, as far as I know, you can put it in, any number of wallets like Exodus or Coinbase even has its own wallet that you can use. But that still kind of has the keys and everything linked to a device. And so there's that kind of instrument that you can use, or you can do what's called cold storage, and that takes it completely kind of off of any technologically
Anything connected to the internet.
Advice.
Yeah.
So you can do that. You can just put your seed phrases and stuff like that. There's even paper wallets, which I think is kind of cool. You have your seed phrase and your keys on a paper wallet. You lock it in your fireproof safe maybe or something, and nobody can really ever access it, which is kind of cool. But there's also devices that will take those keys and everything off.
There's Ledger, Ledger Nano S and X, I believe, and there's Tresor. Both Ledger and Tresor, the cool thing is you can see it and you can have it on your phone. You can see, hey, I have 0.01 Bitcoin, the value's $560 right now, and someone could hack your phone and they could see it, but they can't take it because you have it locked in cold storage in your safe or wherever. But you can still see your value, which is pretty cool. So you can pull up the Trezor app or the Ledger app. You can be like, hey, cool, I have $560, but I only put 100 in. I bought it at 10,000. But then someone hacks your phone, they can't get it.
Yeah.
So it feels like you have it, but it's in your safe. You can't do that with gold and silver.
Yeah, true.
You have to count it up every once in a while. Be like, hey, how much do I have? Okay. And then this 1926 silver dollar, I need to put it in. I need to grab that red book and go through it and like, that's what the value is.
See what it is.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
So say you do have a Ledger device in your safe, then you have to take that device out and use that to move the Bitcoin, right? Is that correct? Yeah.
Now, it's still linked to a paper wallet, I think is how you'd say it. So if that, let's say an EMP hit the earth and it wiped that device, but I have the seed phrase, I can get back in and get the Bitcoin off. And all these devices are allowing for more and more cryptocurrencies. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, those are easy. You can, like, any cold storage will take them. But then there's others that are coming out now that'll allow for the Cardano and the Polkadot and all those. Now you can also have it on cold storage and stake it. So I believe, okay, now I might be out there, but I'm pretty sure you can. Yeah, you can. You can have a ledger with your Cardano on it and have that linked into the Yoroi system, which does Daedalus, which is Cardano's native system, into the Daedalus wallet and have it staked. So you still own it. You have it. But Daedalus and Cardano know that's staked with us, so it's not liquid. You're not moving that all the time. So we will pay you in Cardano to have that. I don't know if that makes any sense.
And so staking just means that you're kind of committing that you're not going to have that out in the liquid supply. They can kind of lock that away essentially, but you still have access to it, right?
Yeah, so
basically staking.
I've taken staked Cardano, unstaked it, transferred it to a wallet, and had it put into USDC coin in 5 minutes. So even though it's staked, it's there, you can still access it very quickly. But they're willing to pay you, and that's the difference between proof of work and proof of stake algorithm, which if people want to get into it, like, you can just go kind of research.
This is where the education comes in. Just go check it out and see what all this is.
There's so much. I mean, it's hours and hours and hours of YouTube, just working in a skid steer or going on a run or whatever, and it's infinite, and there's just new stuff every single day. I follow a lot of Cardano people. There's just Cardano news every day. Bloomberg is now opening up Cardano to let people invest in it. Well, that's cool. Bloomberg.
Yeah.
Buy more Cardano. It's still at $1.05.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways.
Well, do you think so? I mean, talking about education, this is one thing that I started studying this. I've been interested in money and how it works and everything for forever. I think we probably all grow up doing, wondering that, how do we become wealthy and that kind of thing. So I've been, always just interested in it and educate myself and that kind of thing. But do you think that is the biggest hang up for people, is learning that? And do you consider your education work? Because that's one thing that I've struggled with.
That's a great question.
You know what I mean?
Because this has turned into more of a passion that I think has major potential upside, it's not work. Yeah. I love to go on a run and listen to podcasts on this, or listen to YouTube videos and the latest, or listening to Mike Maloney, Hidden Secrets of Money. It's not.
Yeah.
But that's just because I'm passionate about it. I love it. Some people, they're kind of like, hey, I'm going to subscribe to this that's going to tell me what to do. Now, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I kind of do the same, in a way. I have Trade the Chain, which tells their daily sentiment and whether they think it's going to go up or not, depending on how much it's being tweeted about and how much volume there is. And if the daily sentiment's good, it's like, hey, throw some in there. If the daily sentiment's bad, it's like, hey, maybe I'll sell that and see what. But I never do all of it either. Mm-hmm. It's always a very small portion of it. And so even though I'm passionate about it, I like researching it, I like learning about it, I'm still willing to have somebody else tell me some of it, because I don't understand all of it at all.
Yeah. No, there's definitely a lot to do. Yeah.
And the macro side, so Raoul Powell,
yeah,
and Real Vision, willing to subscribe to them because he sees the macro, or their company sees the macro perspective, and I'm totally micro. I wake up, I eat some protein powder and some oatmeal, and I work out, and I work, and I try to build content and work with people and coach people, and I have my micro. Mm-hmm. I have to rely on other people.
Yeah. No, I think that to me the education part's been the funnest part.
Yeah.
I just it's crazy fun
yeah.
to just, and kind of a little bit frustrating at times too, because the more that I learn, then the more that I realize that I don't know. I mean, but I think that just the awareness of it and learning new things, about stuff is crucial. I think that people have to learn, at least to have an interest in this stuff, to be able to, grow wealth or be self-sufficient, self-reliant, maybe.
Well, I like the word that you used earlier, sovereign. That sovereignty it's important, and I think that's actually been lost throughout the last couple generations. Is what is sovereignty and why does it matter? I actually care. Now I'm not saying other people don't care, but I want to be self-sufficient. I want to govern myself. Mm-hmm. Cryptocurrency and education are a great way of making that happen. And you start educating yourself on how the world works and how it's a whole new world. Yeah. So you go, hey, yes, there are kind of some drones that just live in the world and go through the motions. I don't want to be that. I want to be free in every way, shape, and form. I want to be financially free. I want to have freedom of time. But I don't want that just for myself. I want that for all my friends. I want that for all my family.
Yeah.
And really anyone that lives. And I think as long as we're learning how to add value to the world, if everybody had the mentality of, I want to add value in every transaction of my day. So I go to Maverick and buy fuel. I'm adding value. Someone comes and pays me for this. I'm adding value in a service. They're adding value, monetary value. We're adding value. The world would be such a better place.
Yeah.
And crypto kind of makes it to where you can't hide from it. The value is what the value is. Now, will it be manipulated by certain people, whether that's institutions or miners or yes. Mm-hmm. But when the day is over, the value is what the value is. If Cardano's producing, the value is going to go up. If Ethereum's producing, the value is going to go up. Bitcoin produces because it's that fixed supply, store of value, can't be manipulated in any. I mean, sorry, manipulated, yes, can't be falsified or forged.
Yeah.
Can't double spend.
Can't be inflated.
Yeah, it actually deflates, which is by default means it will never stop raising in value. So, what is the value that we can give? That I think that's what it comes down to. That crypto just opens up that new world of value, and how that value can be transferred to people.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I was I was in a class the other day, and this guy, the teacher, taught a simple concept to make, to invest and stuff. Very profitable concept. And everybody's like typing away going, why doesn't everybody do this? Like, why? This is incredible. Like, this literally could help people be financially free, whatever. And I mean, it was just an investment concept, but
Core compounding.
But no, it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't core compounding. No, it's just an option strategy.
Oh, cool.
And nothing real fancy, really. Once I had somebody show it to me, and then I went, oh man, that made a lot of sense. I've kind of been around that and trying to figure it out, but until he actually showed it to me, then it just didn't click. And so everybody's typing and going, why doesn't everybody do this? Like, this is incredible. Like, if people knew the power of this, then I think they would be all over it. And he says, I don't know. He says, why doesn't he's like, I've got some gold in a safe. Why doesn't everybody save gold? Why doesn't everybody learn about this? Or why doesn't everybody, budget their finances to track them better? Why doesn't everybody, and it really was interesting to me just to think about that. Like, I think that there's people that want to do that, but a lot of people just don't. They just don't have an interest. So when it comes to crypto or something like that, I think there's just people that want to make the quick buck.
Yeah.
But I think more and more it's getting to people that are going, this is incredible, as they're educating themselves and seeing that lasting value, and seeing it as something that's a lot more than, going, why isn't everybody doing this? Kind of same like me and you are. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
that's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
I could really just talk all day. So now we're just gonna start boring people. But
yeah, no, that's good. We ought to. So it's kind of an interesting spot where crypto's at right now.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens in the next month or something. I mean, I think. Honestly, I think there's probably some big things going to happen in the next month. Yeah. But we'll kind of see. Maybe we can do an update later on. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. It's tough because, always trying to get family into it. Like, hey, get into this. Well, now that it's like hitting all-time highs and everything, people are like, hey, should I get into this? I'm like, dude, 5 months ago, 6 months ago, I would have said yes, 100% dive in hard.
Yeah.
Like, leverage your house. But now it's like, hey, it's all-time highs. I actually don't know. I do think it has upside. Yeah. I will take $1 and put $1 in because I think that the dollar in cryptocurrency is higher than the dollar value itself. Mm-hmm. That's me. 5 months ago, 6 months ago, absolutely. Right now, you could put $1,000 in and it will dip 50% tomorrow. Yeah. Totally could happen.
Yeah, the volatility's way up because of the price being up so high.
But a year from now, I think that did I say $100? Or whatever money you put in, if you put in $100 and it dips to 50 tomorrow, it's not 50 unless you sell it. A year from now, I think it'll be 200 or 300 or 400. That's what I think. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But long game with this, I think is really important, and being willing to take profits along the way so that you're not losing your initial investment. Mm-hmm. I'm actually willing to lose my initial investment because I believe in it. I just don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, for sure. No. I think go educate yourself. Yeah. We have way more education available to us than we ever have before. So I think people ought to educate themselves and go from there.
What are 2 places that people can go that seem reliable to us or that seem reliable to you?
So I've gone through, and I hate saying, hey, go to YouTube, because people are like, oh yeah, like the guy in the Learjet kind
Yeah,
of thing,
yeah.
you know.
Rented it.
But I think there's some legitimate people that are trying to make the world a better place on there by giving lots of information.
Yeah.
Real Vision is one that I really like. I think, and I actually haven't started listening to it just a couple months ago, but I think Raoul Paul's a great, very intelligent and has a lot of great advice on there. So Real Vision I really like. Another one, I like Gregory Manarino. I listen to him. I think he's really, really intelligent. And there's a ton. Mike Maloney. Mike doesn't talk a lot about crypto. I mean, he does a little bit, but
He talks about Hedera Hashgraph.
Yeah,
And,
he does.
And,
does.
that's
And
been
EOS.
a good one.
So that's kind of that's kind of the guys that I listen to especially with crypto. I think that Real Vision is on top of it. I feel like there's some other guys like BitBoy Crypto and some of these guys that I do listen to just to kind of get an idea of what their take is.
He's a clickbaiter.
But yeah, exactly. You can tell it's kind of trying to.
But I think he's legitimately trying to. Now, does he pump coins? Yes. I mean, he's gonna buy a coin. He's gonna talk about it. It's gonna go up in value. He's gonna sell it. That's what he's doing. But his basics, absolutely. And another one is Altcoin Daily.
Yeah.
I don't know if this guy is a backdoor multi-millionaire, or if he's just a kid that lives in an apartment. I have no idea, but his idea of just helping the world with free content. I'm going to give you the latest on what's happening in the Bitcoin and alternative coin world. Mm-hmm. And every day it's good stuff. I don't even know how he makes his living, except for that he's highly invested in crypto.
Yeah.
But he's never asking for anything. He's just out there to add value to the world. Every once in a while, I think he'll be like, hey, if you guys want, like, you could hit the thumbs up. It helps my YouTube algorithm. But his stuff is always just so good. It's just great. Like, he's the one that I learned about the Bloomberg and Cardano. It's just so funny. As things hit all-time highs, everyone starts talking about it.
Yeah.
And then they'll also talk about, like, hey, I was in this early. Like, Graham Stephan.
Yeah.
He's like this big YouTuber. And now all of his videos are about Bitcoin. It's like, hey.
And before he never talked about it.
Yeah. And the oh man, I can't even. Now we're getting into this. I can't think of words. The ego. My ego's like, dude, I was in this before you were.
Yeah.
I just don't have as much money as you.
Yeah.
But no, it's fun stuff.
Cool.
Okay.
Right on.
Okay. Well, let's be done, but let's follow up with it because this is just fun stuff.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it'd be wise to, and I'm sure we will, but dive more into sound money and that kind of stuff. I mean, it'd be interesting just to kind of talk about that a little bit. And
yeah, Mike Maloney's been asking to come on our show. We just haven't said yes yet. So
that'd be awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, thanks, and we'll get together in the next couple of days, make it happen again.
Sounds good.
Cool.
See ya.